it's almost exactly 1 week until I go to pick up my tea prescription, and I'm not sure how that's gonna work. I think like if everything goes well, because I still have to, there was the blood test and everything. And assuming that all goes well, I get the script that day. They didn't seem to imply that there would be any problems. And then they're gonna demo it for me, like how to do the injection, and then hopefully I'll be able to take it that day. So if that's true, then it's almost exactly 7 days until my first day of tea. So, how did my intake appointment go? I was really nervous. I was really anxious about going, just because I didn't know what to expect. Like I've looked up, other people's stories, but the thing is with Planned Parenthood, you gotta understand, it's different in every single state, in every single city. Every single center runs on its own, like, method. Like, some Planned Parenthoods will offer a sliding scale for your fees and stuff, and some have like funds that they use to help trans people pay for things if they don't have insurance and things like that. That's where the sliding scale comes from. Mine didn't, and that was unexpected. I'm fortunate enough that I have health insurance at the moment. Will probably cover it. I'm not sure. That's another thing I'm worried about. The reason I'm not sure, I know that it covers gender identity disorder treatment, but I don't know if it's going to cover it under the informed consent model, which is what you do at Planned Parenthood, for the record. Anyway, the way that my intake appointment went with PP was, I set up the appointment. I had to do it a couple weeks in advance because they were booked out, and I went ahead and set up my appointment for 2 weeks later for my script at the same time. I got my appointment. I went in. They had me fill out some paperwork. It was just really like, most of it was really standard medical paperwork, like history of disease, are you allergic to anything? It was really nice. There were some sections on the paperwork that was like your pronoun. It included non-binary options, which I was really appreciative of. Probably you can find those forms online if you're really curious. I can say right now that I didn't find any of it uncomfortable or invasive, but of course it's different for everyone. I filled out that paperwork and I turned it in, and they gave me this, a prescription bag with like, I guess it's their welcome kit or something, because it didn't have anything to do with my appointment. It had materials in it about, like, domestic abuse and birth control and STI prevention and stuff like that, which I thought was really great. I think that's just something they do for everyone. If you're a first-time patient, at least, I don't think they do that every single time you come in. So that was nice, and then I sat down and I waited. And they also will ask you, like, what name you would prefer to be called in your pronouns, if it's not your legal name. So then a nurse called me back. He was very nice, and he told me I could sit on the doctor table bed, whatever you call that thing, or in a normal chair. Didn't have to, sit on the paper bed thingy if I didn't want to. I chose to anyway, just because, I don't know, I always feel weird if I don't sit on it in a doctor's office. I can't remember if we did the questionnaire first or if we did the blood first. He did ask me about, like, if I have any history of STIs and stuff like that. I think before we got started. Basically, I got a full test done in addition to just the normal blood work. I think it's a great idea to always get tested regularly. They will ask you if you're having sex and your most recent sexual encounter, and like they'll ask you a lot of, I don't want to say it's invasive, it's fairly invasive, especially if you're really uncomfortable about talking about sex, but I feel like it didn't feel emotionally invasive. Like, I feel like if I had said I don't want to talk about it, that would have been okay. Like, I didn't feel forced to talk about this stuff, but just be prepared. They will ask a lot about your sexual history, and that will include questions about stuff like sexual assault, using protection, and domestic abuse, and things like that. So if any of that is triggering for you, that's something you want to be prepared for. They will ask about it. I don't think you will have to talk about it if you're not comfortable. All I did was just, I answered very simply, and he didn't press. I did not feel like I was being forced to talk about things that I was uncomfortable about talking about, but it will come up. And I know that can be very difficult for some people. He did offer me further information about, hotlines and resources, which I was very appreciative of. Like, he didn't make a big deal out of anything. It was just like, okay, here's some stuff you can look at. These are people you can talk to if you feel unsafe or if there's anything like that. And they will also ask you questions about your allergies and your medical history, things like, history of certain kinds of cancers, certain diseases. So that was no big deal. Oh, he also took my blood pressure. Also no big deal. He left and he sent in someone else. I think he referred to her as a clinician. She was the one who ended up basically, I don't want to say like put me through the ringer, whatever, but a little bit. It felt intense. It felt like, not like deliberately intense, but it felt pretty intense. Like, I felt a little put on the spot because she was asking me questions about, like, my identity and when I came out. And one thing that they both asked a lot about was, like, do you have a support system? Do you have people who will support you? And that was a little surprising to me because that's not something that I've seen, like, emphasized particularly when it comes to informed consent, but it seemed very important to them. Fortunately for me, I do have a strong support system. They were glad to hear that. But even if you don't, one of the first things the first guy gave me was he gave me a sheet of local resources, including a local support group. I don't think that's I don't want to freak anyone out. I don't think that's a deal breaker where informed consent is. It's just, that's something that was very important to them. It was emphasized pretty heavily. And there was also a sheet with all of the potential side effects, and we kind of breezed through it because she got the idea that I was pretty well informed. I'd done my own research, and that's true. She did discuss with me what my next appointment would be like, which is coming back, and that they would demonstrate it for me. And the reason they don't offer, I don't know if they'd do it if I brought my own stuff in, but they don't have testosterone in the office itself, at least at this one. So they cannot administer it for you at the office. They will give you the prescription and you have to go pick it up yourself. And at the appointment where they give you the prescription, they will demonstrate for you. They will show you how to do it, probably on like an orange. I've heard that's what they usually use, on how to do the injection. And I specifically was like, by the way, I don't want to do intramuscular. I'd like to do subcutaneous. And she's like, that's great. That's what we would have suggested. That's fine. So that's good. That was something I was a little worried about, that they might insist that I should do intramuscular, which I don't want to do because I've done intramuscular self-injections before for a different medication, and it really sucked, and I hated doing it, and I really didn't want to have to do that every week for the rest of forever. And I don't know if subcutaneous is going to be any better, but I've heard it's better. It's a smaller needle. If you don't know, it just it goes into the fat instead of right into your muscle. So that wasn't a problem, and she was like, cool, and that was it. And they sent me on my way. Everything about the appointment was very comfortable. I left feeling really excited and a lot less scared than when I went in. So that's how my intake appointment went, and I will do another video to let you guys know how my actual pick up the tea appointment goes. As always, thanks for listening.